Alright, Merry Christmas to those who are interested in watching this right now. This one's going to be a bit of a hefty discussion, just like those bags that everyone likes. You know, some homeless people wear them sometimes. Anyways, I was actually looking at Joshua because I'm finally deciding to start building him. I have my 4-star, about to go into 5-star, and I figured it would be a good time to talk about this because, well, it was brought up to me a little bit ago, and while Joshua may talk there, I can't exactly hear him. Still have my party of Agmas. Haven't had much time to play today, but, you know, Christmas, family, all that fun stuff. So before we begin, I do want to mention that we still have that contest. The video for that will be listed on the screen for you guys in case you want to go over there and join the contest. All you have to do is leave a comment and your operating system and your, you know, region, and you will get a $50 equivalent. You know, you may win a $50 equivalent of, you know, whatever operating system you're on for, well, whatever. Figured why not. Anyways, so, a lot of you have been talking about this as things have gone on more often than not with a lot of new additions of units and characters into the game. And someone pointed this out to me. They're like, oh man, Athena doesn't get much attention. She's just a character that was added then quickly forgotten. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I went and looked through a lot of what was going on. For those who don't know, it was probably around the genealogy of the Holy War banner that things really started to ratchet up with the whole power creep thing. And, you know, I'm just gonna be clear here. Heroes and mobile games kind of need power creep. I know a lot of people are so against it because we had that, you know, and I've joked about it before, where one of the developers during an interview said something along the lines of, hey, we're not going to be worrying too much about power creep. Don't worry about it. We don't see it as something that's going to happen too often. And then, you know, genealogy came and that ramped up a lot. Unfortunately, the ramping up has actually harmed a few things. You know, Athena here, she was a somewhat decent sword unit. She's still pretty good. Just so we're clear, I'm not dissing any of these characters. I'm just saying straight how it is. When she was added, she was actually kind of a little bit of a minimal power creep in a way, because the Wu Dao was not available at 4 stars. The only way to get it was technically through Carl, whatever you want to call him. And yeah, that was the unfortunate business there. But funny how some people really love Athena, but how quickly her kind of niche and things like that quickly folded into other characters. I mean, first we got Ira, and then we also got Mia, who kind of fields that gap a little bit more. Mia is definitely and I hate to say this, a bit of a better version of Athena stat-wise when it comes to pure growth. And that's not something that... There's also a lot more going on recently. The newest unit that we could get from a Tempest trial was, of course, Joshua. You saw me on him a bit earlier. He still has, at least from what I can tell, the highest BST of any infantry unit, which is pretty cool. Not only that, but his stat spread is so weird and unique that you could potentially build him to be a lot of things, and that's what's really exciting about Joshua. I still love the concept of him. I really want to get down to making a really great character of him, but, you know, time constraints and all that fun stuff. Simply put, yes, there is power creep, and there's going to be power creep for a long time, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to harm the game. It just means it might make characters that you love a little less viable. But the good news is, and I see people always freak out about it, going, oh god, power creep's ruined Athena, power creep's ruined, you know, Marth, and certain characters like that. Sword units have been hit especially hard by this because there's a lot more sword units being added. A lot of the canonical characters that are added from certain games tend to be sword wielders, which is unfortunate for certain characters like our friend Joshua, or, I mean, Marth, or Athena. It's just a problem that's going to constantly come up, because, again, we have characters like Ira who show up and are meant to be these really powerful characters that you really want to get a hold of and use them in battle, and they're going to be, you know, powerful, and they're going to be the things that a lot of people are looking towards to at least use, and that's something that is, well, just simply a mobile game. That doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't ways to combat the power creep. We know, when we got the Refinery System, it did up a lot of characters' viabilities, and it did touch upon the characters that were kind of being neglected. in some ways. Wu Dao can be upgraded. A lot of the weapons that were available from the base game, outside of maybe some other interesting weapons like brave weapons. I know people still love brave weapons, but when it comes to a lot of that, there are some other concepts that just, at least it's built upon them. Not only that, but like things like Armor Emblem have really started to come into their own a lot more with certain units. Unfortunately, that seems to be something that comes from flying. I mean, not from flying, from seasonal units that have things like flying and armored mages and things like that that are just outrageous and insane and sad and just kind of weird, things that you won't see often. But then, of course, we have characters like Lissa, who I believe now has the highest BST of any character, in the game right now, which is great for her. That's amazing. Good for her. Thumbs up, Lissa. Good job on that one. You finally showed up your brother, who's actually in the same class as you. And then we, of course, have skills like Bold Fighter and, Vengeful Fighter, which are essentially just, unique versions of, I guess, effects like Heavy Blade that just make it so your character will attack, and then, the charge will go down faster, meaning you can have weird initiations with armored, or if you're using Vengeful Fighter, attacking armored units. So things are getting very interesting for a lot of the subsets of units. And I know people don't necessarily like that, but the thing is, as we go along, as Heroes continues to evolve, I'm going to guess that eventually this will start to slow down. We're going to probably have spikes of power creep, basically, where, as much as I really liked the Halloween banner, I don't think anything in there was too, game-breaking, too power creepy. They were just kind of interesting new units that you got to try out, and now we have even more units that are just a little bit more than that. Granted, Bold Fighter and Vengeful Fighter, and then of course we have things like Brazens, which, oh man, I mean, just to give you an example of why that is such a difference in how things are working, and originally I was going to have an actual presentation for this, but unfortunately, since I'm at my parents' and I really just kind of want to talk about it because people were asking. Oh god, I wasn't meaning to do that. Where is Ryoma? That's what I was looking for. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Defiance. So I'm sure a lot of you know about Defiance, right? Basically, how these work is, and if you don't remember, after you hit that certain health threshold, what happens is your character gets a buff at the start of, basically at the start of turn, if their HP is below that certain health threshold. The thing is, then in come the newer abilities, like our good old Brazens, and of course, these are huge, more powerful versions, and they operate differently. Brazens only affect when it's at the start of combat. Not only that, but they have, at least for this one, it's attack and speed plus 7, which is just about the same as Defiant Attack 3, at a higher HP threshold, and the same buff, plus an additional buff. Not only that, but since it's, of course, before combat, that means that it doesn't matter if it's, if you have something like Panic Ploy or something that will disrupt, buffs such as this. Defiance, they had the problem where they would use them at the start of turn. That would technically give them a green number, which then could be turned red if you decided to use a Panic Ploy, which means that would go in the opposite direction. So, of course, Brazens are a direct upgrade of that, and not only that, but they can be brought over to other characters, which is... it's a strange world we live in, don't you think? It's a very, very strange world. People kept asking me if I think that they're going to continue with the power creep. Well, of course, because, guys, it's a mobile game. It's a gacha game in its own. And the name of the game here is to keep you spending money and keep you trying for newer things. And, I personally don't think Heroes is very free-to-play friendly at all when it comes to a lot of the content that they bring out. And I know some of you may disagree, and some of you might be like, I'm a free-to-play player, and I only... But no... It's when they do things like this that you kind of get the inkling that, yeah, they definitely want you to be spending money, because these are unseasonal units that won't be available for a little while after. you might see them pop up in a legendary banner or again when the next year comes, but By then, we're going to have even stranger abilities, maybe even more powerful abilities, and more powerful characters, and probably by then 6 stars. Oh boy, 6 stars. That would be a nightmare in every way. Really hope that doesn't happen, but, you know, when you look at power creep, yes, it's happening, and honestly, you really can't fight it. A lot of these characters just kind of have to happen, and unfortunately, that means that some of the other characters are going to fall by the wayside now. Hopefully, in the future, we're going to see more things like the Refinery System, where you're going to be able to build characters, and you're going to be able to make, you know, interesting characters. If anyone actually has a really good Athena build, I would love to see it. I went through my emails, and I found a few, but most of them were incomplete, and I really wanted to see if anyone had made a really good Athena build, because, you know, I've never actually seen her out there in the wilds, actually, you know, being used by someone, which is kind of odd. I've actually seen more Carols than I've actually seen Athena, which really bothers me in some ways. But, you know, when people say, you know, well, it's just about power creep, well, yes, but you will still be able to use the characters you love, and a good thing about that is, of course, at least Brazen skills can be brought over. It's not like, you know, Sigurd or Arden or Alvis or whatever, where they basically Arvis, sorry, where they basically had a unique B passive that was all their own. At least these abilities right now can be moved over, and I really expect the power creep to continue happening. It's just going to keep happening over and over and over again. Hopefully, it'll start to even itself out as we get into the more possible, you know, the maybe different characters that we can get there, and hopefully they won't all be sword-based. But what are your arguments for or against power creep? I figured I would just open up this discussion, because why not? And I'll see you all very soon. I hope you have a great day. Catch you nerds later.